Thank you so much for joining us. To everyone who's joining us online, I just wanted to mention that Leon is a contributor for Rolling Inspiration for also quite a few years now. He has his expertise in the sporting industry and is actually also part of SASCOC. Do you want to just share us a bit more about your CV, Leon?
Cool, yeah. So I'm currently acting general manager for high performance at SASCOC, which is the South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee, which incorporates the Paralympic Committee as well. And hopefully in the next few months, we'll see some positive stuff in terms of a name change. So Paralympics will be part of the name of SASCOC going forward. So we know that we treat our Olympic and Paralympic athletes as equals, and we deliver that team as one team for both the games. So I'm a previous Paralympic athlete, a very, very long time ago, attended the Sydney Paralympic Games as an athlete, and all the way through to attending the Rio Paralympic Games as the chef de mission, the chief chili pepper, basically. So I've gone full circle from being an athlete to now being a high-level administrator and work with both Olympic and Paralympic athletes.
Thank you so much, Leon. And we are so grateful to have you as one of our contributors. To anyone who's missed out on the previous sessions, my name is Mariska Morris, and I am the editor of Rolling Inspiration. And today we'll be chatting to Leon a bit about the new norm or the new normal that we can expect in the sporting world post-COVID, or even now during COVID and lockdown. And so specifically in your article that was in issue 4, you mentioned that the Department of Sports, Arts and Cultures has made funding available for COVID relief. And I was just curious as to how has this funding been able to support South African sportsmen and women, and specifically para-athletes as well?
Okay, so the funding made available, and we thank the department for that, was more for your high level athletes that earn money and get some sort of income from participating in sport and have now lost that income during COVID. So it did help a number of our top Paralympic athletes. The funding was not there to replace an income. The funding was there to put food on the table, to ensure people are eating and surviving. So there were 2 rounds of the funding being made available. I was lucky enough to be one of the evaluators on who should be getting the funding. There were 6 of us from different sporting backgrounds, and it really helped. Unfortunately, now with a new spike, we hope that the department manages to get more funding to assist athletes. It's very scary. This new spike has really hit us hard. Even though sport is still open, it's still a major problem, because the return to play and the return to train, I think, could be in jeopardy going forward.
Yeah, and obviously the spike also affects our sport men and women, our athletes, in terms of they can also obviously get sick and things like that. The coaches can get sick, and we don't want that at all. So also I was just thinking we can talk quickly about what are some of the coming events that the community can look forward to. As you mentioned, the sporting world is still open. So is there any para sports or events that we can look forward to?
Well, hopefully in March is the national championships, the Toyota National Championships for the South African Sports Association for the physically disabled and visually impaired. It is the postponed one from last year in PE. So they are still looking at having it on the same dates this year. We really do hope it goes ahead. It's even very important for our athletes, because it is also in certain sports a qualification event for Tokyo. So hopefully we holding thumbs, holding toes, holding everything we have to hope that it goes ahead. It's a highlight for everybody. It's on our shores. It's really nice to get going and watching. Maybe there won't be allowed to be spectators, we don't know, but we really do hope that Toyota national champs do go ahead. If not, I do know that they do have a plan B to ensure that certain events happen under the brand name of Toyota as a local sponsor in the country.
Yes, and also thank you to Toyota, who is sponsoring that event, and is making sure that our athletes, can enjoy it and participate. And anyone who doesn't know, the national championship is really a lot of fun. There's a variety of sports, from swimming to wheelchair races to boccia. So definitely, if you're there in the environment, or you have an opportunity to go and check it out, please do that. It's really awesome. And then you did mention a new normal. So what does that entail? How has sport been altered since COVID?
Well, it's very weird. What is the new normal? So uh, the new normal is obviously your social distancing, your sanitizing, your being screened going into an event. And I know that the English Premier League just got nailed now. When people score, they all hug each other still, and they're going, that's not allowed. And the problem is, but in the excitement of sport, it's a natural reaction to want to celebrate and congratulate and hug. That has to go out the window.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of para athletes require assistance to compete in their sport. Luzanne Coetzee, one of our top visually impaired athletes, has to have a guard. The guard has to touch her. Now, when we talk about a visually impaired athlete competing, we know the guard is the plus one. It's an automatic that they compete as one. Now we have to try explain to people that are going, you can't go near anyone, you got a social, and they're going, no, we got physically disabled athletes in boccia that cannot compete without assistance. They need help getting dressed, they need help showering, they need help competing. And we have to try get that through to people that don't understand it. And we got to ensure that those people that are helping our disabled athletes or athletes with disabilities are clean, are sanitized, are wearing a mask. And that's the new normal, to make sure that we look after the safety of our athletes. The social distancing is just going to be so weird going into an Olympic and Paralympic competition. We're getting multiple messages out of Tokyo that the games are going ahead, but it's going ahead with getting screened permanently, getting tested every few days, social distancing. Now, when you go to a dining hall to eat with your friends, they sit next to you. Now they got to sit 1.5 meters away from you. But that same person may have to push you into the dining hall and then sit 1.5. So it's a crazy, crazy time we're going to go through, and it's going to last a number of years, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think something that you also mentioned, which I find very interesting, is in terms of the athletes themselves having to social distance from each other, making it very difficult for team sports. But also, of course, if an athlete gets screened and they don't pass the screening, suddenly their chances or the opportunity to participate is very greatly affected. Because they might be a risk to themselves, to other people, which is very, very tough.
Absolutely. And the worst part about that is, for example, if we're in Tokyo and they get screened and and are showing symptoms, they have to be isolated in Tokyo. They can't get on an airplane and come back. So that is also a horrible thing, and we have to ensure that we have policies and procedures in place to ensure we look after the sanity of our athletes and the mental well-being. I'm someone that recently recovered from COVID, and let me tell you something. It is not nice. Your mind plays horrible tricks with you, and you really need support. So we got to ensure, as Olympic and Paralympic Committee, we have that support in place at the games.
Yeah, I think then it's even more wonderful that the committee has you on board, because you can now also give that very personal experience of saying, guys, this is what people experience when they're in that situation, making sure that you can provide mental support for the athletes. And I'm so happy that you have recovered well from COVID. That can be quite scary.
I'm very happy myself. It was a very scary 14 days. A few of the days I was like, wow, this COVID's nothing. I'm fine. And then suddenly I was not fine anymore.
Sure.
And it was very horrible. And your mind does play tricks on you, and you really do sometimes think, well, this is the end, even though that you actually weren't that bad, but your mind has played tricks some days on you, and it's been very horrible. I was very lucky. My family were around me. I isolated at home, and they really took care of me. My medical support team, because I deal with so many doctors on a daily basis for our athletes, were all worried about me and checking in on me. And I've
That's
never
wonderful.
taken so many vitamins in my life. Yeah, but yeah, we through it, and I do have that, and I know and know that we will definitely need to have that mental support for our athletes. And we're very lucky, we're very blessed with Dr. Debbie Alexander, that's on our board, is also on the International Paralympic Committee's board, and she's a clinical psychologist that specializes in sport and practices in sport, so she has the expertise to assist.
Wonderful. And then I think something that you mentioned about the new normal, which I found very interesting, and that you can maybe provide us a bit more like insight into, especially as a former athlete, is this not being able to celebrate a victory with your teammates, but also not having a crowd of people in the stadium when you're playing. I know a lot of the cricket and rugby games recently have empty stadiums. Like, how would that impact the players?
From a personal point of view, I don't know how I'll compete in a stadium without spectators.
Mm.
I used to love feeding off the vibe from the spectators, the shouting, the energy in the stadium. I love that, and I like watching the soccer and the cricket now and all that without spectators or limited spectators. It's crazy. And that's another thing that we'd probably have to be assisting our athletes to say to them, listen, you're going to be running in a stadium that may not have a spectator shouting for you. Hopefully not, but we just hope that that by then there is some sort of spectators allowed. At the moment, Tokyo are saying that they are going to be allowing spectators. I just don't know in what capacity yet. Is it a 50% capacity, 25%? That's something that they're still looking at. But yeah, it's crazy. Just watching the English Premier League, and they got the artificial noises, and they got pictures of fans on the seats. I definitely think that affects you as an athlete.
Yeah. That mental shift that you need to take, like you said, you're not feeding off of the crowd, so having to find that internal motivation to give it 120% every single time, I think
Absolutely.
it's a bit different. Um, so I think then, just from my side as well, you did mention now that the Paralympic Games will be continuing, but then a big question from my side is, what will South Africa be impacted with the border closing? Because, as you know, a lot of countries have been closing their borders to South Africa with the new COVID-19 strain. What will the impact be on our Paralympians? And also, of course, there's always the risk that South Africa closes its borders or not allows athletes to go outside, or other people leave the country. So can you maybe speak to that?
Yeah. Okay, so we often work on that old saying, control the controllables. If South Africa closes its borders and we can't travel, it's an uncontrollable. There's nothing we can do. Hopefully it won't. Basically, the Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic local organizing committee, together with the International Olympic Committee and the International Paralympic Committee, have said they'll open the borders. There will obviously be very strict protocols in place on arrival, on being screened at the airport, of even being tested at the airport, waiting a few hours for that test. If someone tests positive, there would then be a second test for them, quarantine, isolation, things like that. So we're hoping that things will be in place for us to safely deliver Team South Africa to the Olympic and Paralympic Games. Our medical team, our chief medical officer of our Olympic team, Dr. Pato Zondi, and our chief medical officer of our Paralympic team, Dr. Carolette Klutter, attended a medical webinar yesterday with Tokyo and the IOC and IPC. They are getting daily updates. They are dealing with the local Department of Health, Department of Transport, because they're the ones that could close the borders. So we need to understand, hopefully the vaccine will be here in time and we can roll it out to our athletes in time. Obviously, our Paralympic athletes are in the more vulnerable group, so they may be able to get it before the able-bodied athletes. The IOC and the IPC have guaranteed that they will not make the vaccine it's compulsory to be able to attend the games, because there are people that do not want to take the vaccine for their own personal reasons, and that's fine. But there will be protocols in place for those athletes and team members that do not want to take the vaccine. The worrying thing is that what it's looking like is that there are certain airlines, and there's only a number of airlines that can get us there in the way we want to get there. We don't want to travel for 3 days to get to Tokyo. That they may have a strictly vaccine policy that you can't get on an aeroplane without the vaccine. So that could be a worry. But as I said, we can't worry about that right now. We must just control what we can control, and hopefully everything pans out for the best. It's a few months. Hopefully the curve in South Africa flattens over the next few weeks. It's very scary. Even at our work, we are still all working from home, and we'll reevaluate that at the end of January.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Leon. From my side also, thank you and good luck to you and to Team South Africa. I know it's kind of a very daunting situation to be in, and it's kind of a bit scary, but hopefully everything will pan out perfectly for you guys. I just want to mention to everyone online and on Facebook that they are now more than welcome to submit any questions. If there's anything that you want to know about the current state of sport in South Africa, you're more than welcome to ask a question. Raven, I'm also going to unmute you in case you want to ask a question. But just a last thing from my side, Leon, is I was hoping maybe you can speak towards what is the value in someone getting vaccinated. I know obviously a lot of people, like you mentioned, have very personal opinions about it and have very strong feelings about it. And we're obviously not saying that anyone, is going to be forced to do anything that they don't want to, because if you don't want to, then that's fine. But there is some value in getting it, and maybe you can speak to that specifically from a sporting point of view.
Well, I think the value, I'm not a medical person, but personally, I'll take the vaccine. That's just myself. I've got close members in my family that don't want to take the vaccine. It's a personal thing. However, I think for any sports person out there that want to compete internationally, I think the vaccine will give them a bit more of a leeway of being able to compete, because they can show that they've taken the vaccine. But it's something that we need to monitor go forward. I think what we have to understand that there's no ways that vaccine's going to get to everybody in the world before the end of this year. It's just an impossibility. Hopefully it does get to us in time, that we can vaccinate our athletes so they can start competing and earning money and inspire our people. Our Paralympic athletes are always top of the class worldwide, and it really gives young kids with disabilities inspiration and aspirations to become a Paralympic athlete one day. Not all will become a Paralympic, but at least sport really helps going forward. It helps health, it helps well-being, it helps getting together, it destigmatizes the disabilities, and it really helps going forward. I see, can I just quickly comment? I see Raven has put on the chat about supporting. We are going to be rolling out the marketing and PR program from February, Raven, and there will be a dedicated Instagram, Facebook, Twitter handles to be able to support the team.
Yeah,
but right now, it's right now on Twitter, it's Team South Africa.
Yeah, just sorry, Raven, just for anyone on our Facebook Live who didn't see the comment, it just says that Raven asks that we start showing our support for our athletes on social media while they are preparing for the Paralympic Games. So please go find our athletes on social media.
Yeah, and a lot of our athletes have their own Twitter handles and Facebook pages and that. So please just get out there. We'll hopefully be able to show a squad, the possible squad going to the games after the Toyota National Championships.
Mariska, allow me just to comment there. Thank you very much, Leon, for your contribution, and not only to this webinar, but to sports in general. And I want to wish you well for going forward. My comment is as you've seen it there, is for us to support our athletes. And you've mentioned there that the inspiration part of our our Paralympic team. That for me is usually the biggest advantage, because not only the kids with disabilities and the schools that they inspire or that have the aspirations to becoming Paralympian, even able-bodied people, everyone. At one stage, that was the only activity that we could watch, and so many people follow the Paralympic movement. So that is also why I propose that we support, and as much information as we have, so that we can get it in our newsletters and in our magazines, so that we can show how we stand behind our athletes. So thank you very much, and all the best for going forward, especially in the preparation, because I know it will be difficult now to prepare, especially some athletes travel to prepare the best, but it's difficult now under these conditions to prepare.
Raven, thanks very much. I just want to touch base on that preparation. That's where the problem is. The preparation of our athletes for the Olympic and Paralympic Games right now is at its hardest it's ever been. And we really, if we see our athletes performing in Tokyo, we really got to take a step back and go, wow, well done. You guys have gone through everything and you performed. And a big thank you to QuASA and a big thank you to Rolling Inspiration that has continuously supported our athletes from the days before you, Raven, and well done for becoming the new Chief Chili Pepper after Ari. Big shoes to fill, but it's great that you're there, and we look forward to that support from QuASA and Rolling Inspiration going forward to Tokyo and beyond.
Great. Thank you so much, Leon. We really, really appreciate that. I see there's no other questions on Zoom or on Facebook Live. So I don't know if there's anything that you would like to add just as a closing comment.
I think the ad is just please carry on supporting our athletes. We have limited funding. It's always a problem. So please just watch your space. Hopefully we can come up with other funding opportunities towards our athletes. Watch your space for possible sponsorships being announced, exciting sponsorships being announced. We're busy dealing with a number of different possible or probable sponsors that will be covering both our Olympic and Paralympic team. So support our sponsors, support Toyota. Toyota don't just sponsor the SSAPD Nationals, they also sponsor the Paralympic team from the international Toyota body. They're a global sponsor of the Paralympic movement, and they're also a sponsor of our South African Paralympic team. And so is Citibank, global sponsor and a sponsor locally of us. You can't really support Citibank locally, unfortunately. They're just a corporate bank here. Unless you got lots of money, maybe someone like Raven, you can go there. But yeah, so a big thank you to those sponsors, a big thank you to the National Lotteries Commission, and a big thank you to the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture that continue to support us. Even if it is limited, we still do get funding, and we understand it has to be limited now. The health of the nation is more important than anything else. We need to ensure that we roll out a proper vaccine program for the entire South Africa, and we understand that's where the funding needs to go right now. But thank you very much for all the support.
Thank you so much, Leon. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you for everyone who was able to join us.